Okay, that's running. All right. Go ahead and welcome the people we do have here for tonight. The weekly-ish design stream. We're doing a last minute sort of swap over where we were planning to do the light cards, but a couple things changed, a couple of things that I wanted to do differently, and at the end of the day, I've got a guest host with me today, Mr. Reuben B, who is resident fire expert. This guy has played more fire cards than anybody and everybody combined, probably. Um, so we're gonna be taking a look at fire. Ruben, if you want to give a quick little bit of your like background as far as like some of the other games you've played and stuff, just let people kind of know where you're coming from.
I played Magic the Gathering. I played Force the Will. Mm, I don't know the other games.
Yeah. Biggest one.
What's the,
Go ahead.
is it the game that's hitting off now? I can't remember. Not the zombie game, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Biggest one was
Yeah.
was Force Will. Honestly, I mean, I've actually traveled with Ruben personally quite a few times. We've gone to different like Grand Prix and Nationals and stuff like that. Jalen's in the chat says he's the best flawed player so far. Not even close. Yeah, Ruben's actually the reigning like champion of our first like online tournament that we had with the internal testers. He, believe it or not, took it down with a fire deck, and TFTI. I actually don't know what that means. Um, but yeah, he's been he's a close friend of mine. I've known him for quite a while. He's kind of been here since the beginning. Thanks for the invite. Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's been here since the beginning. He's definitely done a lot of the kind of testing with me and with some of the other players, and he's seen a lot as far as what fire decks can do and what where they've been strong, where they've been weak. We have kind of like a joke that we tell internally that like fire is the most tested and balanced color just because Ruben won't stop playing it. Pretty much, whenever we get a group of people together, whenever anybody's building decks or hanging out or wherever it happens to be, he's just like, I'm here. I've got my fire deck. Like, let's see if you die to aggro or you can actually like, you know, stave off and stabilize. So definitely the guy who needs to be here, talking about these cards. We're gonna do kind of the quick little jump in like we did last week with like a little bit of like one of each card. Kind of go through the basic foundations again, just in case there's anybody in here who's uh, needs to get caught up to speed a little bit. We're gonna start right away with the Mercury Ravine. This is the fire shrine from the first set. It's got a combat zone effect that says the first time a fire unit enters your combat zone each turn, take an additional action. This action must be attack or pass. Ruben, how's this card treat you?
It treats you pretty good, but sometimes it can hurt you.
Okay. Um, I think. Well, I suspect what he's leaning in on there. Sometimes you attack and then your guy's tapped, and then taking that extra
Yeah.
action actually can open you up to some counterplay. But I actually look at it from the opposite direction. I think that this card is like you're normally playing an aggro deck. You have so many actions to take because you want to be deploying to the board and taking attacks that it's very hard to get the prep card from a lot of other builds, right? This card jumping you in action and just letting you play a guy and attack like back to back just puts you in position to get some preps, right? Like that's really like what this reads is like sometimes you will actually be able to like plan out a turn where you can get your actions off and like get a prep in there. Um, One of the, I guess, how am I trying to say? Because all of the shrines are like based specifically on their color, right? Like when you look at like the water shrine that we saw a couple weeks ago, which was like the first time you play a water unit with stealth, like trigger for a damage, right? Um, this shrine really makes you want to play like so many fire units. Um, Side note, actually, I've got this opened up right here. Uh, let me rewind for a second. Kathy and I have been working very diligently to try to get the tutorial videos set up, and I've recently come to the conclusion that the shrines are meant to be epic cards, but none of them actually say epic on it. What do you guys think of that? Like, if you're in the stream chat, like, I'm picturing that all other epics actually say epic on it, like this, like you can see on the document right here.
What about a mythic structure?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to add something new, but this is more talking about the specifics. I'm saying, so like, we know going forward that sorry, I'm reading all the chat trying to get caught up. So yeah, as far as excuse me, yeah, this sickness is catching up with me. We might have to make this one go kind of fast. So yeah, questions in the chat right now. Jalen's saying, I thought you can only have one structure. You can only have one shrine, right? That's why this subtype shrine is very important on the card at all. But that doesn't specifically tell you that you can only have one card called Mercury Ravine, right? And we've already kind of spoiled going forward. The Great Oak, for instance, gets a unit version of himself in like the Future League right now, right? There is a unit called the Great Oak. And because they're both epics, and the idea is that you're looking at the Great Oak at like two separate like snapshots in time, the perspective is supposed to be that you have to either choose to play Great Oak the Shrine or choose to play Great Oak the unit. You can't do both, right? So there is definitely, I mean, epic. So there are epics of varying types that change type. There's a unit that becomes an item. He like kind of curses himself and like puts his soul inside of a weapon. There are a number of epics that like change their type throughout the story. And the idea is with any given epic, like, yeah, if I'm looking at Griffin the Fourth, for instance, I have to decide, am I playing Griffin the Fourth the King or Griffin the Fourth like after he loses his duel, right? Like those are two separate versions of the same character. The same thing is true for epics that change their type, right? You can still only play one. So I'm thinking that this needs to be added. I think that it's correct to have it there. My issue is does it get a little confusing? Are people like, well, why is my shrine epic? Like, what does that mean? You know, I don't want it to be, I don't want to add something extra that's going to like mess with people, but at the same time, there is purpose to it. Just add it for future proofing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, future proofing is even a good way to say it, because like even in the little bit of Future League that we have now, there is a reason. Even in just with the cards that exist right now, there's a reason that shrines should have that tag. So yeah, I think adding it's going to be worthwhile. All told though, Mercury Ravine is like this is the quintessential aggro card. I mean, you can even look at it and see like the HP on this is 17. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the shrines that we've already looked at, but this is the lowest health shrine. I mean, you're getting you're trading off for the ability to be aggressive. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good start. I mean, this card really does kind of define your deck, right? You're just trying to attack. You're trying to get the damage in.
I forget when you change it to 17.
This is up from where it started.
I know, it was at 14.
Yeah, it started at 14 was the lowest it ever was. Exactly. Travis says there can be another structure that is not a shrine that is called Mercury Ravine, and it would just be an option of, do I want to play the Shrine Mercury Ravine and start with it in play, or do I want to put that structure in my deck, that epic structure, which I'm sure would be a very powerful card, but like the point is, you know, which like, I like to think of it, like I said, as like a snapshot in time, like within the story, like which moment is your deck representing, you know? All right, so let's jump in, push it to the next card. Hey, here's a structure right here. It could be, yeah. So Reuben actually doesn't know that this card is back. Oh, no fire essences. Yeah, we can do... I do have the essences open. I was thinking to do one of each card type first and then do the essences, but we can do it the other way. It doesn't really matter to me. There aren't a ton of us in here tonight. I'm really surprised a couple of these people that were going to show up didn't show up yet, but they should be here at some point.
This is new.
This is revamped. I'm sure you remember Barracks used to be a card.
Yeah.
We need the essences for context. Yeah, that's fine. I actually like that. That's a good thought. I think that the shrine and the essences both give you really good context, so I can get behind that. So yeah, let's pause on Barracks for a minute, and we'll come back to it. Essences we can get through pretty quick because the fire essences aren't the most elaborate things. We saw last week with some of the earth essences that they had a little bit of nuance, a little bit of like different abilities and stuff on them. Some effects that were kind of cool. Fire essences for the most part are pretty streamlined. There's a lot of similarities in them, so you're gonna see going through here. Right off the bat, you've got the fire essence. This is the very blatant, just +0 gives you the ability to produce fire resources. Easy, right? Nothing crazy there. Then you've got the infused fire essence. This is still a basic. We've talked about this a number of times that the each element has 2 basics. There's the +0 and the +2 card construction cost. And this is your little slice of the flavor of fire is that they're going to increase power, right? This is going to make your units deal more damage. This is going to make your events that scale off power hit harder. Just different all the different things that make stuff hit. This is going to give you a little bit of that with +1 power. I at times feel like the infused fire, infused light, and infused air are kind of boring because they just like +1 power, +1 speed, +1 HP. But like, it's just what they need to do. They're basics, right? They're just meant to give you that little bit of the flavor. And then we could jump into this some special essences. Reuben, do you remember? As basic as pumpkin spice lattes. Yeah, I mean, they do what they got to do, right? They hold it down. We were talking about the pumpkin spice today with Kathy and another friend of ours, but about how just because it's basic doesn't mean it's not still good. Like people will play up the whole meme and everything, but like doesn't mean that they're still not good. So first special essence we've got here is the disciplined essence. Reuben, you have to remind me, because you've actually played this a lot more than I have, I think. Did this card used to give stats? I feel like this card used to be different, this essence.
No, I don't believe so. If it did, it was only 1 power, but I don't think so, and don't remember either.
Yeah.
But it's a good essence, though.
Oh, this essence is super strong.
Accuracy is something you need in fire.
Yeah, that's a very profound point, and we're gonna see that when we go through the color. Fire has like about as little interaction as Earth does. Those are the 2 colors that struggle the most with like, straight up like interaction, kill your guy, removal events, like things that actually affect the board. These 2 colors have like the least. So naturally, these 2 colors also have probably the most accuracy. I would say. I think Fire's got the most, with Earth having the second most, like in the core set at least. And this one's so interesting because it's on an essence, right? Like accuracy is a really strong ability. Being able to attack into any given unit makes it where like, oh, okay, the board's kind of clear. I play my decent, accuracy guy that I put this essence on, and then whatever my opponent plays, I can just bash right into it, and it just puts a lot of pressure where they can't just like throw out like junky guys and build up a board. We're not very far. No, it's I'm gonna push through. Like I said, I think I can make it. I'm a little more concerned, honestly. I'm less worried about being sick. More hoping that a couple more people show up is my biggest issue. But it's okay. It'll be cataloged. We'll have all this data available in the long run. Yeah, this essence is great. Turns into a soldier, which there are some benefits to being a soldier, but there are also some downsides to being a soldier. We'll see in actually a couple clicks here, a couple essences from now. But there are definitely some soldier tribal things like going forward into the future league and stuff. Like this is a very useful unit type for a lot of things. But yeah, this is one of the good ones for fire. You usually put these in just about every deck because you need the interaction with the board. What we got next? Oh, this card. I feel like, since it makes the unit cost an extra fire, this must not be that good, right?
That's all I got to say.
Just laugh in my face.
That card is awesome.
We've had a conversation outside of talking fire specifically about just essences in general. And this one is very often on the topic of best essences in the game. And yeah, Jalen just said it. He literally took the words out of my mouth. One of the best essences, top 5. it is surprisingly relevant to be well-rounded, right? Like if there were an essence that just gave like +3 power or +3 speed or +3 HP, it would be so much worse than this because like you don't need +3 in any one of those categories most of the time. But getting a little bit extra of all of them, huge value. I've actually built decks where like I've splashed fire just for this essence and like one other card, right? I like took my random like water unit or light unit or whatever it is, put this essence on them, and that like that plus fire cost, that was the reason that I added fire into my deck, was so that I could cast that guy with this essence on it. And I think that that is a line that you can explore. I think that this thing is like that good. What's your without jumping into it too far, can you off the top of your head, what's your favorite unit to put this on, Reuben?
I can't say that.
Oh, it's future league stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
You know who it is. I'll just say champion.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is a really good one. All right. Well, I'm gonna ask you later as we go through the actual cards, and you're gonna have to tell me in set one what do you like the most. Essence of Might. This is another very strong essence. There's a cycle of these. I think I mentioned in a previous stream that every color gets a 4 CCC essence that is basically 2 copies of the infused essence like stacked on top of each other, right? So you've got +2 health and light, +2 speed and air, +2 power and fire, surge 2 and earth, evasion 2, so on and so forth, right? And they're all like so good. Like if you're playing any given color, this essence is in your deck. Whichever one goes in your color is in your deck. They're just staples. Not a lot else to say about this one. Pretty basic, Obviously, if infused fire essence is good, double infused fire essence is great. This one, Reuben, how important is deal 1 damage?
Pretty important.
I'll go even further. I'll go even further and ask: do you like this more on a cheap guy or more on a like mid-sized guy? Like where do you tend to put your pure fire essence?
Well, that one is going to be on a small guy.
Yeah.
Future, I put it on something and they'll be like, oh, that's dirty.
Yeah, there's an epic that this goes on really well in the future league that we'll leave off for now. I like this on Grunt. I'm of the opinion that like just getting that extra point of damage is going to lean towards your aggro strategy, so you may as well play it on like the cheapest card possible. Is kind of where I go. If I'm trying to just get you dead, I just want to get that damage like turn 1. Just go, Yep. And this is like, it's kind of misleading, right? Because you look at this essence, it's very similar to an infused essence, right? The CCC is 1 higher, it gives a point of power, and then you get this added little enters effect. It's surprisingly relevant, right? Like that extra 1 damage, like there are so many games where it can really come down to it, where the aggro deck is like
looking for the 1 damage.
Looking for 1 damage because their opponents have taken control. They've like stabilized, and then you're just like, oh, I top deck my pure fire essence and get to go direct. Really good one. Raising. So this one is 2 CCC. So this goes on a lot of cards. You can put this in a number of places. And rather than scaling the power at all, so you end up with a situation where your card isn't any more powerful, but if you can go face with it, you're going to get 2 bonus damage. So on units that hit the shrine, they do 2 extra damage. On events that go direct, they do 2 extra damage. Excuse me. It's kind of a trade-off, right? Because you don't get the extra like power to like win fights or control the board with, but you're getting really good face damage if you're actually going face. Have you played this on many units, Reuben? I tend to put it on events, but have you played this on any units?
Yes, I play it on. My favorite one, Dark Fire.
I was about to say, wait a minute. I feel like you had this on a stealth unit at some point. Was that you or was that Jake?
Wasn't me.
I think somebody put this on. The stealth unit, it's the water unit, the 3 cost like 2/5/2.
Oh yes, I did do that.
Yeah.
That was me.
I was so certain that was you because that's just like the epitome of go face.
Yes, I put them on it, and they're like, oh god, 7 damage.
Yeah, exactly. Jalen's making a good point. He says this on a unit can stack the damage. So like, if you can hold the board in such a way that whoever this is on can hit the shrine multiple times, then you get that bonus 2 damage every time they hit, right? If you put it on an event, it's like a one-shot deal, right? I like play my event, ram the gates, for instance, deal damage to the shrine, increase it by 2, and then it's done. But on a unit, yeah, you can get multiple instances. Here's your anti-soldier card. Rebellious Essence. This is, again, it's very similar to an Infused. 3 CCC, adds 1 power, but also gives the card the ability called Sworn Enemy Soldier, +1 power, +1 speed. We haven't actually come across Sworn Enemy yet, I don't think, in any of the previous streams. But Sworn Enemy is a passive effect that ultimately says, while in combat with a unit of the listed type, so in this case, Soldier, my card gains +1 power, +1 speed. This is one of the major punishes for playing super heavy soldiers, but it's a trade-off because like I said, going forward in the future league, there's a lot of really good payoffs for playing a lot of soldiers. So you got to kind of have those checks and balances. One of the things I kind of like about a lot of the fire essences, and I kind of said this at the beginning, is even though they're all very similar, it starts to become really important how you like mix and match them, right? Like, which unit do I want to get into fights more? Well, that one's going to get Sworn Enemy. Which unit is going to be more sneaky, raising, whatever. And you can do a lot of customization even with just these small added effects. Let's see. Okay, that's back to the beginning. Sweet. Discipline. So yeah, we've got some bonus damage, accuracy, a lot of bonus power. Those are your basic essence looks for fire. And now this card. I don't know if I or you even remember what the old one did, but what do you think of this? This is like the world premiere of Barracks. This is like a new Phoenix arising from the flames, new card.
I think the first one wasn't it +1 power.
The first one was +2 power most often. Yeah. Yeah, Jalen's saying in chat, he's saying this is strong, but having only 3 HP keeps it in check. I kind of agree with that. This thing dies to pretty much one hit from, like, any respectable, like, combat unit, right?
Yeah.
And keep that in mind for anybody who's, coming back. Since this is a structure, it can be attacked directly regardless of if it's exhausted or not, right? I put this thing into play, my opponent can immediately start launching attacks at it to try to defeat it. It takes 3 damage and it's gone. 3 mana and aggro deck, funny joke. Yeah, but like it is an anthem though, right? Like 3 mana anthems are not completely bad. Like that's kind of fine. And that's if it just had that top line attacks. Like once you start to play the game a lot more, you'll start to realize that when you have units that have a lot of power, adding a point of speed is like a multiplicative effect because you're ultimately giving them that like first strike potential, right? And the same is true. The same is true the other way. If you have units that already have a lot of speed, when those units gain extra power, it's just like, oh, they're hitting fast and just killing things before they even get a chance to hit back. So like the stats work, off of each other.
This might be OP if you get 3 of them out.
Yeah, but the action economy is like miserable at that point, right?
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah. But yeah, you're not losing the board. Your opponent's getting every prep, but like your guys just never die.
And you're killing everything.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with some nice discipline essences, giving everybody accuracy, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think this is going to prove to be a lot better than the old version. It's going to be a little bit smoother to use, just because it has an activated effect, so you can actually get some extra value off of it. Who do we have next? Oh, this guy's great.
Yes, he is.
So we got Battlefield Hesmen. It's a unit soldier, costs 2 fire to play, 3 HP, 2 power, 2 speed, and says the first time an enemy unit is destroyed each turn, recover this card. This guy's a problem because you never want to defend while he's in play, right? I'm sure you remember when this didn't used to say first time.
Oh yes, Oh.
Reuben has a habit of being really upset at me because, like I said, all the fire cards are really, 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 really well balanced at this point. But all that means is he's played all the OP versions like 1,000 times, and now he has like flashbacks of what used to be. Yeah, it was. It just made it actually just made the card read unblockable, and the rest of your team is unblockable because if you ever block and like lose a combat, then he's just attacking again. So it wasn't particularly reasonable.
I can say it was very OP.
It was. This was one of the most egregious like cards that has changed in Fire, honestly. This one and a few others. Yeah, this guy's great. Only a 1 CCC, so there's a ton of space for customization. You can amp his power. He can take Essence of Combat, get the 1 in each stat point, and become a 3 cost instead of a 2 cost. A lot of options with where to go with this guy, and the fact that he can attack twice in a lot of turns makes him a pretty big threat for only a 2 cost. Big fan of this guy. I think he's kind of core to aggressive strategies, especially in the first set, I would say. Let's see, who's next? Binding Chains. You might be the only person to ever actually play this card, Reuben. I don't know if anybody else has ever put this in a deck.
It's good if you can't get rid of some.
Yeah.
It's on the board. You just slap that baby on it. Sooner or later, it's dead.
Yeah. So, Binding Chains is an item. It costs 2 fire to play. It says linked unit does not recover normally. And it says at the end of the turn, deal damage equal to this card's power to the linked unit, right? So basically it locks him down, slowly kills him, right? The slight caveat that maybe you don't notice on this card immediately is it has the targeting limitation that it has to be deployed onto an exhausted unit. So your opponent has to have already like tapped their guy for the turn, you know, either used its ability or gone in for an attack before you can slap this on them. But once it's on them, they're pretty much screwed. They're locked down. And like Reuben said, like slowly dying. One of the interesting things about this is like it gets around cards that are like hard to deal with, that like you know, maybe they have a lot of armor, or they have, you know, can't be targeted by events, or like what if there are like weird abilities, weird defensive abilities, you just slap this on and just like, yeah, we're just gonna let it sit there, let it ride. Yeah, I think this card is actually kind of like under addressed. Like people don't, you know, within our very robust testing community, people would probably sleep on this card a little bit. Yeah, I mean, any armor is tough to deal with. I agree. Travis is saying it's not a lot of armor. It's just armor is like a really good ability, and it causes problems in combat math, and most removal. Like there is a lot of removal that is based on dealing damage, and armor prevents that, and it's a really strong ability. So yeah, having something like Binding Chains that can just like, you know.
Did you tell him about the essence you changed in Earth?
Which one?
The one that used to give 2 armor.
Oh, I mean, it gives armor 1 and armor 1 while defending.
Well, it used to just give flat 2.
No, it used to give flat 1 and steadfast.
Was it steadfast?
Yeah. Because it had you would almost always play it on Earth. So yeah, we did see that one last week, but it used to be even stronger. But yeah, Binding Chains, decent little card. Dying Breath. It's a 1 cost event that says recover target unit you control. That unit gains this card's power until end of turn. At end of turn, destroy that unit. So one last hurrah. It's a 0 speed event, so like you do have to play it as your own action unless you're putting an essence on it to give it some speed or whatever. But I think that this card is actually really sweet. It gives you a lot of extra damage potential, especially on something like a Griffin that can attack twice for like 10 and 10 or whatever. Yeah, I think this card's sweet. This is another one of the like.
I used it.
I know this one's gotten tossed around a couple of times, but I'll say this: once you start playing Fire in the Future League, the deck list becomes so tight. Like it's so hard to like fit these cool cards in, because you just want to just make your aggro deck just raw efficiency. That being said, this one's you get a lot of value for 1 cost. This card is definitely not like bad by any means.
I'd slap Infused on it, and that'd be my kill.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, with Infused Fire, it's even though again the action economy in Fire tends to be pretty bad, but if you put Infused Fire on this and just like pump for +3, like it's a lot, and you've already attacked with that guy once, right? So you're like getting 2 you know, it's just pretty strong. Funeral Pyre, little hate card. This is a continuous event. Yeah, Jalen's saying it's a splashable card. Very true, because it's single fire to play. Yeah, on the Dying Breath. Funeral Pyre is new to this set. It actually got cycled backwards from the Future League because... Yeah. Travis, this is actually a card that I have played in a deck where it was like 6 fire cards or something, and this was 3 of them. The best thing about this card is it carries dual essences, so you can actually put dual lands on it. So when you don't need it, you just play a dual land. But yeah, Funeral Pyre, single fire to play. It's a continuous event, so once you play it, it sticks in play. And it says cards in dead zones lose all abilities, and players cannot target cards in dead zones. So there are a couple of effects in set 1 that interact with the dead zone. It's not a ton, but it just more and more show up. One of the most powerful cards in the game is in set 2, and it's powerful because of the way it interacts with the dead zone. And this card used to be a set 2 card, kind of specifically to answer that card, but I just kind of think that it's better to just give players this option like straight away. Reanimate's not exactly what it does.
I think I know which one card you're talking about too.
You probably do. It costs 6.
Oh God, that's a different card I was thinking of.
Oh, okay. Well, there are a couple of really good ones in set 2. But yeah, I just felt like getting this in the players' hands as soon as possible because like it is a really easy like splash card, like we were saying. It's a really easy, like play a couple in your deck and you're never like completely boned by anybody who's got the little bit of strategies that there are even in the first set. You may as well have it available,
Yes, I love that card, but hate it too.
Yeah. Travis is typing something else. I think that, yeah, okay. So let me minimize this one. Just play these as your only fire card and hope you draw 2 by the time you need it. Yeah. I mean, you can do that, but, like, here's something that's kind of interesting, Travis. He's saying just splash Funeral Pyre so you have the dead zone hate in your deck. You could do that, but, like, keep in mind that Funeral Pyre doesn't have to be the only card in your deck that produces fire resources, right? When you choose to like splash fire, you're also saying, okay, I can toss a couple of like infused fire essences or essence of might or essence of whatever and like get a little bit of extra power on some of my cards. And then also those cards will produce red so that I can play my Funeral Pyre once I draw it, right? You get to decide how much you want to splash, and like that kind of changes the face of your deck, right? And those are really interesting. Like I have the most fun like really looking at the deck and being like, oh, okay, what if we like your deck was like 50-50 these 2 colors. What if we made it like 40-50-10 and you like added in that extra color? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was talking about tricolor deck last week, and I'm sure you can fit a fire X dual elsewhere. Yeah, exactly. Taking your 2-color deck and like making it 3 gives you a lot of options. It can be a lot of fun to do that. Okay, here he is, Elite Fire Soldier. Reuben, do you notice anything different about this guy?
Oh, the CC's down, ain't it?
The CCC's been down. He got buffed. His CCC got buffed like a while ago. But there's one other thing.
I'm trying to think. Was he a 3/3/3?
He was not a 3/3/3. He used to be a 4/4/2.
Oh.
Yeah. And
oh, that's right. I used to put what you call it on to make
swiftness. You and everybody else, because there's no reason to do anything else. So we recently adjusted this guy to try to make him a little more interesting, so you can kind of decide how you want to build him. Same total number of stats, right? He's 4 HP, 3 power, 3 speed. Same cost. He's 3 and a fire, and he's still got the same ability, just has accuracy. Nothing crazy, right? Jalen's like, this 4-drop can get wild, lol. WTF. This card is really good. It's another splashable card, honestly. It's a single fire to play. It's a mid-game menace. You get this thing out on turn 4, and like... Yes, your dude's awesome consideration, Travis says. Funny how fire can be a control color because your dudes can turn into removal spells with the shrine. Yeah. On a lot of boards, if you slap down like a fatty accuracy unit with Mercury Ravine and immediately attack, it's basically it's a 0-for-1, right? You just killed their guy like so often. And then now they're back against the wall trying to figure out how to capitalize on it. Like Reuben said at the beginning of the stream, your unit is exhausted. You've given them the target for their own attacks to come back, but like you've already gotten value, right? So they have to either be able to cleanly kill your guy to turn it into just a 1-for-1, or if they have to use multiple resources beyond that, it gets even worse. Yeah, I think this guy's a lot more flexible now. Like you can choose to pump power, you can choose to pump speed. He's kind of insane with combat now, right? Like becomes a 5/4/4.
I think this might be my favorite combat card now.
Yeah.
Set 1.
there are a lot of ways to go with this guy, and very excited to see how he kind of takes off going forward. Who's next? All right. Travis says it's probably better defense than the Great Oak's 4 extra health and armor, all things considered. Yeah, it definitely can be if your opponent's willing to play that game, right? Not that they won't. I don't believe that people will just ignore your units that are in play, but like if you're always attacking and exhausting your guys and not defending, yeah, if they don't, they hit face. Yeah, it depends. There are some games where like you can just accidentally do some damage to the 17 HP shrine, and then it's like it's so low that it starts to become scary to like exhaust your guys. There he is. Jalen's in all caps in the chat. Slayer Squad. Jalen, the current lonely member. Actually, no, I think there might be a second member that just recently joined Slayer Squad on the Patreon. But yeah, right here we've got Elvira. This is the epic unit in the first set for fire. She's a 3-cost, 1 and 2 fire. She's the Slayer Squad Commander is her title. And she's got 2 abilities. First one says fire units in your combat zone gain +1 power. This includes her. We've been going back and forth on how to actually write that. If we want it to just, wait, Slayer Squad tier? Yeah. Trav says if Slayer Squad gets TTS access, I'll join it tonight. I'm so bored. Very soon, Travis. I'm working on it daily. I promise I'm doing everything I can to get cards in people's hands. Second ability says, when this card deals combat damage to an enemy shrine, recover another target fire unit you control. This card is insane. If this thing goes unchecked at all, you're going to lose. I can picture... I've pictured games, and this is Future League stuff, but you know who the other epic it is that I'm talking about. If you get those two out in conjunction with each other, and just do the stealth ping pong attack where they both hit and both buff each other and both like do that nonsense. What's the like reasonable damage that they can do? Because like the other epic amps her by 2, she amps him by 1, she recovers him. It's like 14 damage or something with for 2 cards. Yeah, it's really gross. But that being said, I think this card's like pretty reasonable. I mean, it is an epic card. Like, they're 1 per deck. They're all meant to be pretty strong. Excuse me. God, I gotta get quicker at hitting the mute button if I'm gonna have these giant coughs. But yeah, I like this card a lot. I'm very excited to get these epics designed and get the artists. I've actually been talking to a couple artists today and try to get people really start seeing my vision, start seeing these characters, and starting to get their hands on them. Who's next? Oh, this freaking card. This is one that actually got buffed. Do you remember the stat line on this, Reuben? Like on pre-alpha, like the very first test runs on this card?
I remember it always had 6 HP.
Yeah.
Did it have 1 speed?
It always had 6 HP. I want to say the very first version was maybe 2 power, 1 HP, or 2 power, 1 speed, and then it went up to 2 and 2, and now it's up to 3 and 2. And I think that this is a great spot for it.
Yeah, you can either make it a 6/3/3 or 7/3/2.
Jalen says another splashable 4-drop. I must have been asleep during the red cards. Yeah, 6-color good stuff. I'll be really excited to see the first person that builds like a bona fide like 6-color deck, because we haven't even tried. Nobody has ever tried it. It's like way too difficult to do. But yeah, this guy's great. This is a role player. I mean, it's a little less fire specific than maybe the Elite Fire Soldier with the accuracy. I mean, the accuracy is filling a role that like the fire decks really clearly need. Whereas this card is a little bit more controlling, a little bit more of a defensive card, humongous butt. Like 6 HP is so hard to deal with. Yeah, this guy just kind of... I don't want to spoil, because like we're trying real hard to just focus on set 1 fire cards, but I feel like, or set 1 cards. I feel like this thing comes alive once you get the other fire shrine, is where this card gets really ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know what the other shrine does. Like, that's That 6 HP
Yeah,
starts to matter a lot.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Who's next? Finishing move. All right. This is a card that people have had some opinions on in testing. Friend of the stream, Baka, who was stopped in last week, like right at the end. This is his most hated card in the entire game. Doesn't know why I let it exist. Red counterspell, yep. So the color pie in Flawed is as such. Fire gets the ability to negate anything. Earth gets the ability to negate events. And light gets the ability to negate units. And that was a decision I made really early on. I didn't want to make another game where blue is the color that does everything. Like, you know, every game ever. Or green when they forget how to color blue. Yeah. Just make it. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean. And I think that the mono fire counter, which this is the quintessential. This is the like counter anything. It's 4 cost, negate target card. It's a negated card that costs 3 or less, deal damage equal to this card's power to the enemy shrine. So it's actually a negate and a burn spell, like in one sometimes. This is the catch-all. It costs 4. It's not ridiculously aggressive at a 4 cost, right? Like, you will sometimes negate something more expensive than 4 and gain a mana advantage where, like, you know, my opponent tapped 5 or 6 for the thing and I got rid of it with finishing move. But, like, most of the time, you know, by the time I can set up a reasonable board and hide behind a finishing move, you know, it's a number of things have had to happen for it to look good. You know, it's not just an automatic, like, oh, I always have this available, you know. Keeping 4 up. I mean, you've played a lot of fire decks. You've been like, I know that a lot of your decks don't even end up playing this card. Like, you don't even use it and everything.
No, not some of them don't. Yeah.
And that's I think it's an important thing to note is that, like, even though it is, yes, multicolor essences can be played on this as well. Yep. 2 CCC pretty much allows you to put like almost anything on it. But yeah, I think that there's you need to have a slot in your deck where you care to have this type of effect. As good as it is, and it's clearly a good card, right? Like 4 cost answer anything, very strong card, right? But it doesn't just automatically go into every deck, and I think that this is actually a really nice spot for this card to be. This thing used to cost
4.
It used to cost 4. It was a single colorless 3 fire. The effect was a little bit different on the damage, but that one was kind of yucky because it was like hard to. There are board wipes, yes. There are some soft board wipes, and there's like one in the Future League that is literally just destroy all units. But yes, there are board wipes.
This one used to cost. It was 6 CC, 0 power, and 6 speed.
Yeah, and it cost 3 for a little while with none of the extra like damage. It was just literally just that negate target card. And it was, I think it was triple fire, I think, when it cost 3. And I didn't like that either. I really didn't like it being triple fire. I think that it made it where you really had to be hardcore fire deck to want to play it at all. And then when you do the Venn diagram of like, okay, I'm a hardcore fire deck, but I also want to counterspell, like, the decks that ended up playing it were like not as often as I would like. And then the decks that used it really, really successfully, it just felt like it was maybe too strong in those decks, but then unplayable in everything else. And I think that that's kind of a bad design, right? Where you have a card that's like, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like, oh, well, it's a 2 in like every deck, but then it's a 10 in like this specific deck. Like, I want the cards to be like 5, 6s, and 7s, like in the various builds you put them in, and like they're good, you know what I mean? And they're worth considering in different versions. And yeah, very, very pleased with where this has ended up. Honestly, it feels pretty reasonable.
I like it that way too now.
Yeah, and honestly, like the bottom line of text, like if you negate it across 3 or less, that comes up. Like that damage is there. It's not, you know, it's not just to completely be ignored. Like that actually does trigger surprisingly often. Like in my head, I'm looking at finishing move. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally want to negate like their 6-drop and like blow them out because they like tapped out for a big guy and I got to negate it. Sure, but sometimes I want to negate your like 2-drop just because it's what you top decked and you played it and I got like free damage, right? And that's the thing about this card is it's like it works well under both circumstances, which is kind of sweet. Oh, there you go. There's a board wipe.
1 damage damage is useful on units.
It's this card matters so much more than you think it does when you read it.
Oh yeah.
It's really meant to be a burn card, right? The idea here is that you can like hit all the structures for one, including shrines, right? Like, but this card is surprisingly relevant, like in certain board situations. It's. Hey, I mentioned a card. Yeah, Trevor says I mentioned a card like this last week. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty obvious space to like make a card, right? Like have something that just like whirlwinds everything for a damage. But like this card actually matters so much in certain decks, right? Like if you're playing, for instance, that big fat regenerate character we saw a little while ago, the Eternal Flame Soldier, she just ignores this damage. She'll just heal it off at the end of the turn, right? So like she doesn't care about it. If you're playing armor characters, they take 0, right? Armor reduces it by 1. If like there are a number of pretty potent aggro threats that only have 1 HP, so like this card actually just kills them, right? Thinking Blade Warrior, Strong Arm Thug, like stuff like that, you know? This card's great. This card really is a workhorse. For 1 fire to deal 1 damage to all units and all structures, it's doing something on most boards. It's very rare that I have this card in my deck and I draw it and I'm just like, not today, Firebomb, not the one I'm looking for. Usually you can set the board up in such a way that like, you know, you trade off in combat, like get damage on their guys, leave them all at 1 HP, and then it's just like, bam, Firebomb, like kill 3 of your guys. You know, my 2-drop traded up with your 3-drop, my 4 traded up with your 5, and then like you just get this huge like advantage for having that 1 extra damage to push. Super sweet card. Fire Palm Strike. Yeah, research facility. Yes, and research facility allows you to do it in combat because it gives it 1 speed. Yeah, we're. I know we bring up research facility all the time, but it's not as like degenerate as it sounds. There are a lot of decks that don't want research facility and can get something much more powerful for their shrine improvement, but research facility does do a lot in the decks that it goes in. I'll admit that. Fire Palm Strike, this is a pretty basic card. It's a single fire. Target unit gains this card's power until end of turn. It's really similar to Dying Breath because Dying Breath also gives like 2 power base and has the ability to improve itself, but this one actually comes with speed and doesn't force your guy to die, right? So like the fact that this has 2 printed speed means that you can kind of play it in response to your opponent doing something. Like even if they're on like 1 speed cards with research facility, or they're an air deck that's got like 1 speed cards that are pumped up to 2 with their infused essences or whatever, Fire Palm Strike like is usually going to have the chance to respond, and it doesn't force your guy to die, right? Like Dying Breath does kill off your guy, so I think this card's a nice little role player. I know you've used this one at least once or twice. I've actually played this in like my balls to the wall like burn deck, because I just read this as deal 3 bonus damage, right? If I can get an unblocked unit in, I'm gonna cast this thing with plus a power from an infused fire or whatever, and I'm paying 1 to deal 3. You know?
Yeah, you just first turn you play something, they don't play nothing. Next turn, if you got initiative, and then you just first palm strike if they don't kill it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, is because this has 2 speed, there are a lot of kill spells that only have 1 speed, right? So, like, in that exact situation that you just brought up, if I'm like, okay, I play my 1-drop on turn 1, I bash with it on turn 1, we go into turn 2, I have initiative, because I've got a guy in play and you don't, and I just open attack on the very first action with my first unit. If you don't, like, kill it immediately, I'm going to Fire Palm Strike, and now you're not going to be able to respond, because I've elevated the stack to a speed of 2, and, like, so many removal spells are speed 1, and you're too slow, so to speak, to respond to Fire Palm Strike. And now it's just like, yeah, take an extra 3, lightning bolt your face. You're under immense pressure. You've taken a lot of damage already from just like 1 drop into strike. So yeah, I like this card a lot. I think it's pretty sweet. Kathy plays this card constantly. She puts this card in decks that I argue it doesn't belong in, but then she always catches me with it. I'm always just like thinking that her deck is like, oh, Kathy's just playing some like mid-range like Dirtle guys or whatever, and then I'm like in a combat and she's just like, bam, Fire Palm Strike, and I'm like, oh, why do you have that card? And I'm just getting ruined by it. All right, Frontline Fighter. So this is actually a point of contention, because this is the exact same card as Elite Fire Soldier now, 4/3/3. except it has a 6 CCC instead of a 1 CCC. So this card cannot be modified any longer. You know, you're locked in. You're getting this exact stat line. Nothing's going to change. It's also less splashable. It's double fire and 1 instead of a 3 and a fire. I've actually considered if this card needs an adjustment just by virtue of the fact that Elite Fire Soldier has the same stat line now. I mean, if this card was going to get changed, what do you think would be a reasonable change to it, Reuben? Like which way could I go with this, do you think?
For 3, yeah, I don't know.
Travis says I'd play both.
Drop the HP and then drop the CCC?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually not a terrible option. Make it like a 3-cost 3/3/3 and like drop it down to a 4 CCC so you can choose like how you want to customize it.
Yeah.
That's not a crazy option, honestly. This is something that I don't know I've bothered to say on stream yet, but I actually love 6 CCC cards because you aren't like trapped deciding what stat they need, right? When you have a 6 CCC card, that means that the text is locked. Everything's locked. You're basically not going to be able to modify it. The only thing you're choosing is which color it's going to make, right? So your 6 CCC cards end up being your like color fixing in your decks a lot of the time because it's like, oh, I need to put HP on all these units. I need speed on this event. I need combat on this guy. I need stealth on this guy. I need. Then you get to the end of the deck build and you're like, oh, I'm like 3 or 6 like water essences short from what I really should be, and now it's like, oh, sweet. Yeah, but yeah. Travis says someone who loves deck building, hating choice paralysis, blasphemy. The 6 CCCs bail you out because it's like, oh, I was thinking I was going to make these light because I was short on light cards, but instead I can swap them and make them water, swap them, make them fire, swap them, make them whatever, and you just get that flexibility to like choose anything, and it doesn't modify the stats of the card. So I'm actually often looking for a 6 CCC to add to my deck just so I can like have that flex slot on colors. But yeah, Frontline Fighter probably going to get a little bit of an adjustment. I actually like your idea, Reuben. We might investigate that. This card.
That's true.
Is this your favorite card in the game or like second favorite? Like what are we dealing with here?
Second probably.
Yeah.
Well, now it's probably my first. Let me go ahead and tell you. Yeah.
There are a lot of 1-cost 2/2/2s. There aren't a lot of 1-cost 2/2/2s that have a relevant unit type, soldier, and 3 CCC. This thing can take so many random essences because most of the 1-costs only have a 4 CCC. So you're really just giving them a stat point, right? This guy can get Purifier. This guy can get Rebellious. This guy can get Warding. This guy can get Essence of Combat. You can make him a 2-cost 3/3/3, which is like a real card that like actually matters. This card is so important to Fire because it's just the quintessential customizable aggro unit. Must attack if able clause is like really awkward in an action-based game. There is actually one card that has that text on it, and it's a future league card. It is so punishing. Like it is so punishing to like have to take your action as combat.
It can win you the game, but sometimes it can cost you the game.
It costs you so many games. So the problem with that other card that we're talking about right now, the one that has to attack every turn, is you play it, and then your opponent gets an action, and they're like, "Oh, nice, like guy with 2 speed. I'll just play one with 3 speed," and then you just have to attack into your first striking defender and die, and it's like, man. And then your opponent's like, "Prep, I'll draw a card too, idiot," and you're like, "Oh." That was not the turn I had anticipated. True, the Fire Shrine does fix it a little bit because then you just get to attack immediately. Very true. That is very true. The Fire Shrine is awesome. Like the Fire Shrine fixes a lot of problems, so to speak. But yeah, Grunt Man, this card is a absolute like marquee fire card. Like this card matters a ton. And this one, Reuben, how many? Guess how many Ram the Gates have you played in your life? Just out of curiosity.
Not even gonna hundreds that you put it.
Hundreds, yeah, that's an underestimate. This is actually like Bolt Your Face. I'm a big. I kind of don't like when a card, when you look at it and you're like, oh, there's like one clear essence that goes on this card. That being said, this one has like a couple of options, like infused fire, raising. Like there are some ways to go with this one. Not a ton, but there are a few.
I've actually used it with raising.
Yeah, if you don't have anywhere better to put raising, this is a plenty good spot for it. But at the same time, on the flip side to that, some colors just need some effects, right? So Ram the Gates is a 2-cost event, just says deal damage to this card's power to target structure. That includes shrines, so you can just go face with this thing. Plenty of games are like, oh, I've stabilized. I'm like, not dying. Yeah, research facility approves this 0-speed event. Very true, very true, very true. But yeah, so many games. You stabilize against the red deck, and then they just draw like double Ram the Gates, or like Ram the Gates with some card with Pure Fire Essence or whatever. Like it's very common for the fire decks to like have the reach to always put you under pressure. And I think I like that. I think I'm actually a pretty big fan of the fact that the fire decks are like scary in that regard, because it makes healing like really relevant, right? Like,
yeah,
when I like play Old Man Geralt and like heal 6, that matters. That matters a lot, because I'm just like totally out of reach of like any Ram the Gates or nonsense, right? And that's like those having that sort of like push and pull not only makes healing like better, but it makes it so that the fire decks are not just like dead to like random defenders and stuff, right? Like you have the ability to win games even, in dire straits.
And that card has won so many games.
Oh yeah, I mean this card is it's super critical, super important to what fire decks are trying to do, to have the ability to like finish the game, because a lot of times you can't get those last couple of points in through attacks, right? If the opponent starts playing like big fat like 4-cost guys and stuff, it's tough. I was hoping today was light so I could roast how bad Thaddeus is. Thaddeus is really good, but doesn't save you from Ram the Gates because he can't target shrines. He's really good.
Oh, that's the one that used to be able to, right?
He used to be a little, yeah. His old version didn't say heal all damage, so he used to be able to target shrines. But yeah, the new version is kind of just insane.
Heal broken.
Yeah. Reuben, you've not seen this card. This is a new card. What do you think?
Wait, what?
This is a brand new card.
3, 4, 2, 3. Any structure, take it. This works good with Firebomb.
This works great with Firebomb and Ram the Gates,
Yeah.
and Pure Fire Essence, and all Siege Trebuchets.
Yeah.
All of it, yeah.
I've not seen the card.
So this hasn't gotten played yet. There were a couple of flex slots in some of the colors, and I was looking at like rounding out the curves and like making all the colors have like viable strategies and different things. And this fire needed like a fatty kind of, or just something a little more expensive, I guess you would say. Just be too broken if it didn't say structure. Probably.
Yeah.
It would by virtue of like multicolor decks, right? Fire cards aren't going to take advantage of it doing increased damage otherwise, but like there would be some pretty nutty shenanigans you could do with it at that point. But yeah, I like this. I think that this card's going to be kind of interesting because it gives you the ability to play like burn as more of a strategy, right? Suddenly Ram the Gates is hitting for like, if you go Ram the Gates raising with this card, that's a 2-cost deal 5. Can also hold multicolor essences. A lot of options. That's one of the things you'll start doing, once you get a little bit more involved. And you're already kind of seeing it, is that when you look at a card and you see 3 CCC, you need to say to yourself, okay, this can hold dual lands and like the mid-tier like +1 with some added effect essences. And then when you see 4 CCCs, you're like, okay, these can get the double essences, the like really good, the power stuff.
Have you showed them the 5 CC essences?
I have not shown them the 1 5cc essence.
Oh yeah.
All right. And here it is. Siege Trebuchet, 4-cost. It's a structure.
Love this card.
At the end of turn, deal damage equal to this card's power to target shrine. So you set this thing up and you just shell them every turn. They take usually at least 2 because you're going to put power on this most of the time. Can also take raising. Can also, there's a couple different things you can do with it, but just a little more reach, right? A little more reach for the fire deck. Another way to attack. Travis has mentioned a couple times in the chat already, like, oh, like if I'm playing a fire control deck that just wants to hold control over the board, this is a way to like win the game. This is a way to set up where like, oh, you stop them from being able to speed 1 because we ain't slow. Yeah, I mean, the idea is that this thing is like, it can actually quote unquote fight back. If a card has power and speed, it deals damage in combat, right? So like, if you attack the Siege Trebuchet, the men that are operating it are able to kind of defend themselves a little bit. That being said, they have 1 power and 1 speed, so if you're attacking it with any reasonable unit, you're just going to maul it, but it technically does fight back. Yeah, this card, I actually played this very recently in a hardcore control shell.
I think putting Raisin on in a control deck would be good.
That's exactly what I had, because I didn't have anywhere else for Raising to go. So I put Raising on this, and I was playing light, and I was using the Expert Trapsmith that gives all your other structures plus 1 power. Reuben needs more base. Lol. Can't even hear him.
Can you hear me now?
Is that any better? Well, I hope you come up in the recording, Reuben.
I do too, sorry.
Oh, here's Slayer Squad Recruit, Jalen. This is your boy. 3-cost unit, another human soldier. Pretty reasonable stat line. It's got 3 HP, 3 power, 2 speed. 4 CCC, so not a lot of options. I mean, you're going to get your basic infused, whatever, on this guy. You know, you're not going to go crazy with him. But he's got sweet abilities. Armor 1 while attacking. That's kind of the Slayer Squad's thing, is they want to, like, jump into combat, you know, and be pushing the pace. So this guy is, you know, trained in doing that in an effective way. And then Evasion 1, your opponent must pay an additional 1 to target this card. This is usually a water ability. Jalen says, is every fire unit a 3 or a 4 cost splashable? Apparently. I might need to look at that. Maybe we need to change a couple of these, how many fire symbols they have. But yeah, the Slayer Squad kind of like specializes in this sort of combat where they're like difficult to pin down. Their formations that they use and their attack patterns and the way that they're very aggressive. So this particular character, the recruit here, is just starting to learn these abilities with the Evasion 1, Armor 1 while attacking. And Slayer Squad's kind of a repeat theme. You'll see them going forward. This is a really important, you know, part of the flavor inside of the Fire Tribe. Elvira is their current commander. You know, they're kind of the primary, you know, elite troops within the Fire Tribe. The less color pips, the more greedy I can get. I agree. Travis, I literally don't play decks that aren't 3 colors, so I'm with you on one part there. Like, it's very rare for me to play a 2-color deck.
Is this card renamed, or I just don't remember it?
This card is cycled back from the set 4 design file. You actually might not have even seen this prior to me deciding that it needed to move backwards.
Yeah, I've probably seen it, just don't remember it.
Yeah, this was. Yeah, this is part of the push to get a little bit more keyword abilities in the first set, so that we can have more help text, more introduction to like these types of abilities in the first set. Let's see.
Can you hear me better?
Not sure.
Guessing that's a no.
All right, got another item, the standard issue Falchion. It's a 2-cost item. It says it links to a non-epic unit, so you can't put this on, like, you know, granted there are not that many epics in just first set, but the idea being that this is for your, you know, this is specific to your run-of-the-mill soldier. This isn't for your, you know, your leaders or whatever. It's got 3 effects. Says when this card interplays, recover linked unit, so it gives you another way to get double attacks off, which is kind of a common theme you see in Fire. A lot of opportunities to like go, you know, multiple attacks with the same unit, which can be good, but at the same time, you know, depending on how your opponent's defending, sometimes if you couldn't get through the first time, you're not going to get through the second time. So it's really board dependent. Linked unit gains the type soldier, also plus splashable because single pip. Yeah. And then finally, linked unit gains this card's power. So this is another 6 CCC, so you're going to be able to put whatever color essence you want on this. This is another color fixing card. It's got 2 power, so you're just going to pump your guy. And it's an item, so it stays in play. You know, you're given a permanent pump of 2 power and a recover for 2. Pretty strong card. I think this one's actually also new to you, Reuben. You might not have seen this one. I think this one also rotated back. I know you've not played it, at least. Okay.
No, I haven't played it.
Yeah.
Yet.
Haven't played it yet. You can already imagine this in some decks, so I take it.
Oh, yeah.
How heavy do you think you can go on items in a fire deck? This is actually a conversation we've had a couple of times. Items and structures can be tough to squeeze in depending on what your strategy is, right? And fire decks tend to be really aggressive and want to have a pretty high unit count. So, like, how many... Can you play a full playset of this? Is this good enough to play a full playset?
I'd splash 2.
2? Okay. I don't hate that. I mean, you're almost certainly fitting a Warcat's main in, right? So that still gives you 3 items right there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to cough again. Yeah, I think this card's sweet. I'm actually pretty excited to see how it plays. Part of me wonders if it gets a little bit worse as you get more sets because you have more epics in your deck, right? Like, as more sets are released, you have more access to more individual epic cards. Not that it's a huge change, right? If I'm playing a 2-color deck in set 1, you know, I'm only going to have so many epics available. As more sets come out, there become less like valid targets for this. So I wonder if this is going to be like a 1-set all-star that just kind of like phases out over time, or if it's actually, I mean, the card's really strong. Honestly, the text on it is great. Like, what it does is really good.
For fire, the first line matters.
For fire, all the lines matter.
Well, I know that, but I like what the first line says.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely. Yeah, Travis is saying in chat, gets you that soldier synergy as well, which is, there are some, like, you're not going to see it right away, but going forward, there are some pretty bonkers soldier synergies, like, as time goes on. Like, soldiers are one of the most supported units in the game, honestly. Soldiers and knights, I think, are probably the 2 most heavily addressed, but yeah, just a pretty good workhorse, I think. And now we come to the Boogeyman.
That's a card.
Targeted strike. For a single fire, target unit you control deals damage equal to its power to target enemy units. This card is splashable for anybody who's keeping track. I have played this in so many different decks, different combinations, different strategies. If you're aggro, you want this card. If you're control, you want this card. If you're mid-range, you want this card. If you're combo, you want this card. You know, whatever you're doing, having a 1-cost removal is usually fine. It's usually just worth putting in the deck. It just does what it does, and it's going to perform in pretty much any strategy. Important caveat, the way that this is worded, your guy has to survive through the resolution, okay? It doesn't do like a last known information thing. The guy has to actually be in play. So one of the very common like pitfalls of this card when like a brand new player picks it up is they just want to jam targeted strike at any point in time, right? And if your opponent targeted strikes you back or hits you with a call lightning or hits you with a whatever and nukes your guy, you're just getting 2 for 1. You're just losing targeted strike and losing your guy. And that is a massive punish. So this card can be a little tough to play. I don't think it's as obvious, you know, as some other cards, for instance, like Call Lightning, right? You're just going to play Call Lightning pretty much whenever you need to play, like you just play it, right? This is worded, okay, Travis says, this is also worded that it's the unit that's doing the damage, not the spell. I'd have to go and check how much that matters, but it's an important distinction. Yeah, I think the way that I have everything written right now, the reason that distinction matters is quite simply because the unit has to at least be in play. The source of the damage shouldn't really matter for anything right now that I can think of. The death touch equivalent is called lethal, and it's combat damage specific. So this will not trigger any effects like that. I don't think that there's anything that really makes that matter, but there is no lifelink. It's not a thing. This will be iconic when the game takes off, Jalen says. I agree. This card is super, super important. We're just about finished with the fire cards already, and we haven't seen another piece of interaction on this level the entire time. Like, this is Fire's interaction. This is their card. When you're playing against the Fire deck, you always have to have in the back of your mind, do they have Targeted Strike? How bad is Targeted Strike for me right now? Do I need to play my board this way, this way? This is the card that you have to look out for when playing against Fire. That being said, if you're really good at looking out for it, you can just punish them, right? You can really make it so they never want to play it. So, like, it's definitely a bit of a high risk, high reward type card.
I've got punished a lot.
Oh, yeah.
By Targeted Strike and getting Targeted Strike back.
That's the funniest part, is where it's like, I Targeted Strike your guy, and it's like, no, I Targeted Strike your guy. Just literally sweep the leg out from under him and just kill him first. Yeah, no you. Exactly. Fantastic situation. But yeah, this card is, I mean, Jalen said it, like, that is completely true. This card is going to be iconic once people start, really getting in here and, like, seeing how it goes. Like, it's a very, very important card. It matters a ton that Fire has any interaction, but it's super to their flavor, right? Their interaction is based on how strong their current board state is. Do you have units in play to fight for you? And that's where Targeted Strike is going to shine. Excuse me. Let's see, who's next? Oh, Warcat's Main. I think this is the last card. This one's pretty good.
Play it a lot.
Oh, yeah. This is the epic item for Fire. It's called Warcat's Main, the Gift of Rage. It's a double fire, not so splashable anymore. Ha ha ha. Linked unit gains armor 1. Linked unit gains swift strike 1. And when this card enters play, deal damage equal to this card's power to target structure with speed 5. So keep in mind, it is an item, which means you do have to take an action to play it. But because it's speed 5, it's basically, uncounterable, unrespondable to. It's one of the fastest cards you can really play. There are a couple of ways to make things faster than 5, but it's usually far and few in between. So this card is basically the way that you think about this card is that it is like uncounterable reach, right? It's going to come into play, get you those last points of damage. If it wasn't the absolute last points of damage, I now have a menace in play, right? Whatever guy I put this on just gained armor and swift strike, like, it's going to be super hard to deal with in combat. So I'm just going to be able to really try to push that damage through. And this card has ended more than a few games. I know for a fact that you've drawn this against me, like, at that critical moment and just gotten killed by it, like, I don't know, plenty of individual times.
Like, I top deck this?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's play it.
I was actually demoing for one of the owners at the card store here where I live a couple months ago at this point even. And we were playing like the second or third game that we had played, and he was really figuring it out. He was really, really, like, really getting into the game. And he starts kind of telling his plays to the other guy that was, like, kind of watching us play. And he's like, I think I'm gonna kill him. I think I'm gonna win this one because if he makes such and such play, I've got the counter. He was talking. I think he said if he draws the ram the gates to the firebomb, he had the absorb magic. He's like, so I can't die to reach, and I've got defenses for this, this, and this, and I've got these 2 units that can attack through. And he literally laid out the entire board map for how he was going to kill me in one turn cycle. We go to the next turn. I draw for turn, and I drew Warcat's Main. And I just slapped down 5-speed Warcat's Main, and I'm like, you're dead. And he was just like, oh man. And the other guy that was watching, like, actually knew the game, like, way, way better. And he's just like, I cannot believe you just drew, like, the one outer. Like, he just explained to you that you were, like, definitely going to lose. And then you literally drew, like, the one card. I'm like, hey, that's why I play it, man. That's why it's in there. Like, this is just, it's why it's there. But yeah, this card is definitely premium like Fire. Definitely doing what it needs to do. Yeah, Gift of Rage, exactly. I gifted him some rage at that moment. But I think, yeah, back to Elite Fire Soldier. So that's all the fire cards. Pretty... I think you could see a lot of the similarities as to, like, how Fire kind of plays out in the first set, at least. The core concepts being they can go face with their events. They can attack into units with their units. They've got a lot of accuracy, like, built into a lot of the units. Mercury Ravine giving them a little bit of action economy to try to get those attacks in at precise times. I really like GG secretly stands for get good. Nice. I like that Travis mentioned a couple of times, like he was looking at all the cards and he said, oh, like if I was playing like a controlling fire strategy. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to try to do with a lot of the cards in this first set, at least, was not make it where fire was just breakneck aggro, 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, like try to kill you, right? You can play that way. There are enough cards and the right types of cards to be able to build a deck that way, but like fire is actually a relatively diverse color, and it has the ability to do a couple different things, right? Like finishing move as a counter is clearly the type of card that can be, you know, effective in different archetypes. It doesn't have to be good in one or the other. It's going to be versatile enough that you can play it in different places. Targeted strike is like a premium removal spell, right? All these accuracy units being able to interact with the board and stuff. I think that one of the big things that I wanted to kind of capture was, yeah, they can be aggressive and they do care about strength and power, and like, you know, their government is kind of set up as like based around the military, and all this flavor and lore around these guys is that yes, strength does matter, but strength isn't specifically aggro, right? Like the idea is that you can do it a couple of different ways. And I hope that kind of comes through in the cards. I hope you guys kind of saw some of that. I mean, like I said, I really appreciate that Travis was kind of like noticing some of those little call outs as we were going through the cards. Like that actually, you know, very nice to see it in real time. But not to say that Reuben doesn't love his aggro deck, by the way. This guy's, you know, yeah, I mean, yeah. That was actually one of the last decks that you built when you were in town last, right, Reuben? Was the like super heavy accuracy deck? I think I remember that.
No, the last time I was in town, I can't say what I built.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't spoil it too much. Reuben, you might honestly have been oh Jesus. I was gonna say you could. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and good call. I guess we'll go ahead and kind of wind this down. I want to definitely say thank you to Reuben for coming on. You know, giving us a little bit of feedback on the fire cards. This is his bread and butter. He is one of the most winningest flawed players in the short history of alpha testing that we've been doing. He's definitely, you know, shown what fire can do. So I'm really excited to see that going forward. Appreciate him being there. Appreciate you guys coming in Discord, you know, giving the feedback that you gave. You know, it's the whole reason I'm doing this is to start getting people involved and getting them to start seeing some different stuff. Final little shout out for tonight. Very soon, all of the like demo videos are going to be up. We're working on them. We've got the scripts written. We're like recording them. A couple of them are on the YouTube channel already. The rest will be coming up, you know, hopefully soon. And once those demo videos are available, the tutorial videos, I'm hoping to get a little bit of an influx of interest and some people who can actually see how the game works. And then we'll kind of go from there. But as far as that goes, again, thank you everybody for showing up, checking out what's going on here. Be back next week. Probably end up doing the light cards next week. We'll see who's going to come on and talk with me. But again, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.